Welcome to the Neuroflex podcast, where we teach you how to leverage cutting-edge neuroscience to optimize your brain performance. Now, here's your host, Toby Pasman.
Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of the Neuroflex podcast. I am your host, Toby Pasman. On the show with us today, we have a very special guest, Dom the Hypnotist. Dom has worked with CEOs and business owners, NFL athletes, UFC fighters, Olympians, and his team helps business owners and salespeople level up in their careers through the use of hypnosis. So, Dom, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, welcome. Thanks for having me. Welcome myself to the show.
There you go. So talk to me a little bit about tell me a little bit about your background and your journey into what you're actually doing today.
Yeah, so when I was 5 years old, I just woke up one day and I decided I wanted to be a hypnotist. And from there, I did everything in my power. No, I'm just kidding. So I actually, for many years, I grew up like most people that didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. My mom and dad had me when they were in high school. And my mom's side of the family, my grandma had my mom when she was 16. My great-grandma had her oldest child when she was 13. So I didn't, as you can imagine, being a kid raised by a teenager, I didn't grow up with the biggest self-esteem. And I had a lot of limitations that were set in my mind just because of my upbringing. And so right at about 15, 16 years old, my mom, we always had a roof over our head, food in our bellies, and water and everything like that. But we didn't have too many of the extra luxuries. And so about 15, 16 years old, I decided that I wanted to take my first step into entrepreneurship. And I started selling weed in high school. And then that turned into growing weed and the whole thing for a few years. And after, 3 years, I just got tired of the drama just because at the time it was an illegal business. So there's just a lot of just territory and people and this and that. I finally decided, you know what, I'm just going to do something that's legit. I don't have to worry about like cops all the time and people all the time, people ratting you out or whatever. So I got into doing life insurance. And for the first 5 years doing life insurance, I was gung-ho, I was super excited, very passionate about it. But then at some point, I lost my interest in it. I had saved up some money. I took some time off, and I tried some other endeavors, tried to start a couple other businesses, and they just all didn't work out. I tried to start a solar business. I tried to do day trading, just different things. And finally, I basically ran out of money, got into a bunch of debt. So I said, okay, I'm just going to go back to what I know, and I'm going to go sell life insurance. I went back to doing life insurance, and for the last 2 years that I was doing it, I was simply just doing it for a paycheck. And truly, I hated it, but it was the only thing I knew. I felt trapped, so that was what I did. And I would drive around every single day, just hating my life and thinking to myself, there's got to be another way. There's got to be something else. I'm meant for more than this. I'm not supposed to be just doing this life insurance thing. One day, this is about 5 years ago now, I was in so much debt. I just let my car go. I said, fuck it. I called the bank, told them to come pick it up. That was one of the saddest days of my life. My Panamera, they came in and got it. And I just let everything go. I said, fuck it. I'm maxed out. I'm just going to start over. And right about that time, my mom calls me and she's like, hey, Dom, I went to this NLP and hypnosis course. It was like 7 days. Oh my God, it changed my life and it's mind blowing, blah, blah, blah. You should go. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. How much is it? Oh, it's $3,500. Now, my mom didn't know that a couple weeks prior, I just had my car repossessed and I just said, fuck it, let everything go. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll think about it, sure, whatever. A couple months after that, so December of 2018, my mom surprised me with an introductory to hypnosis course as a Christmas gift. I guess the company had like a 2.5-day course. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll go to this course and maybe learn a few things. And I had zero desire that I was going to do this for a living. I had no intention that, hey, I'm going to go to this course and afterwards I'm going to be a hypnotist. But I went to that course, and in that 2.5 days, I changed so much as a person. Like I physically just felt different. I was a different person. And I told myself on the Monday I got out, I said, you know what? This is the thing I've been searching for. For all those years, I'd drive around in my car contemplating, like, what's the thing? I said, this is what I've been put on this earth to do, is to help people feel like I feel right now. Because again, in that 2.5 days, I let go of so much shit that was in my head that was just subconsciously holding me down. And that was it. And then basically what I said was, hey, this is what I want to do, but I don't know what I'm doing. So I set a goal for 6 months. I said 6 months or sooner, I'm going to be doing this full time. So I went out, and within 2 weeks, I worked with over 100 people. I woke up 2 weeks of the day. I had 10 appointments to go sell insurance. And my mind was my logical brain was telling me to go because I got to make money, but my body just wouldn't let me. So I messaged my assistant. I said, hey, call everybody and tell them I'm not coming in today. And I said, that's it. I'm never selling another insurance policy ever again in my life. And then right after that, I called my little brother and I said, hey, bro, I'm going to be doing hypnosis full time. I'm going to give you a deal. I'll give you 2 sessions for $200. And my brother, he's 6-7 years younger than me. He's probably 21 at the time, broke, whatever. And he's, oh man, I don't got that kind of money and this. And I was like, bro, just fucking help me out. You know what I mean? I just rolled him into it. And he's like, oh, all right. So boom, I worked with him. And then I did the same thing with my sister. I was like, hey, $200, 2 sessions, boom. So I got my first 2 clients from my little brother and sister. I basically just punked them into it and they did it. And then from there, everything took off.
I feel like there's different forms of hypnosis. There's like the stage hypnosis that everyone sees. There's also like clinical hypnotherapy. Talk to me about those different, I feel like people, when I hear hypnosis, I don't know, I feel like talking to different people, people have different impressions and ideas about what hypnosis is and what it's not. How do you introduce the hypnosis or your form of hypnosis that you utilize with your clients?
Yeah, so I've done 2 stage hypnosis shows, and they're fun and they're silly or whatever. And I actually did it as a part of a certification to be able to certify other hypnotists. And stage hypnosis is very real. It's not what people think. People think that the stage hypnotist has some type of magical power over somebody and they're black magic and it's dark and it's this and it's that, and nothing could be further from the truth. What's funny is, before I got into hypnosis, because I always been into like NLP and hypnosis and things like that, and I'd watch videos on YouTube. I'd see a guy go up to some random person, grab their hand and go sleep, and then the person would fall or whatever. And I would always think, oh man, these are paid actors, this is all bullshit, whatever. And then when I first moved to Vegas about 6 years ago, I go to this stage show and I'm sitting there and I'm watching it and I'm like 30, 40 feet away from stage and the guy's got 10 people up there. And I could tell, I'm like, these people are not acting. This is real. Like they're under it seemed like they were under some type of spell. And I'm so like, oh my God, this is crazy. You know, what's going on? What hypnosis is, we all go in and out of hypnosis all the time. Hypnosis is a natural state, and all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Whenever you see somebody up on stage, they're not being controlled by the hypnotist. They want to be up there. Think about it. They're going up on stage in front of a crowd of people. It's not like they're being controlled. And this is the way I always explain it to people. This is what stage shows and hypnosis will do to you. I remember when I was younger and I'd go and I was single, we'd go to like nightclubs or bars or whatever. And if you show up sober, you're sitting there and you're like all like nervous, you're sitting against the wall like a wallflower and you're like looking at all the pretty girls walk by and you want to go talk to them, but you won't. Then what happens? You get a couple drinks in you, suddenly you're relaxed, and then all of a sudden you're willing to do the thing that you want to do, but you're afraid to do. And you're dancing and having a good time. So that's what hypnosis does. It makes it to where you're not so stuck in the logical part of your brain and you're open to have fun and do the things you want as far as a stage show. Now for clinical hypnosis, it's a matter of finding things that are in our subconscious mind and getting to the root of them and then releasing them so that either, whether it's a business thing, a health thing, a relationship thing, and so that's how hypnosis works. So last thing I'll say about that is, if anybody's listening to this and go, no, I can't be hypnotized, I'm too strong-willed or whatever, the strongest willed people are the easiest to hypnotize. And if anybody has ever been driving on the street, driving on the freeway, and they catch themselves like wandering off and then they arrive at their destination and they go, holy shit, dude, I don't even remember driving. Like, how did that happen? 20 minutes felt like 5. You went into a state of hypnosis. The difference is when you're working with a hypnotist, you're using that state of mind for a specific reason, whether it's to let go of trauma, improve your focus, your confidence, business stuff, health stuff, or whatever.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue into the question I was going to ask you next in terms of what are some of the most common things that people come to you that they want to work on, and also kind of part of that is what sort of conditions or just states or blockages seem to respond best to hypnosis in your opinion? Or is it all anything that is a belief or mindset? Is anything able to be reprogrammed, or are there certain things that respond better than others?
Yeah, I had this interesting phenomenon happen about a year ago, and it was all by accident. And basically, so in the NFL season of 2021, I've been working with the athlete, and we worked together before the season started. And he was on the bench. He's like third or fourth string or whatever. And then about halfway through the season, he had his opportunity to get his first start. And we would get together weekly. And this time he's, Dom, this is my first start. I'm obviously excited, but I'm also really nervous. If there's anything we haven't done yet, now's the time to do it. And he's, whatever tricks you have up your sleeve, let's pull out I'll pull out the big guns. So what I told him is, I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Because when you're in the NFL, you got to learn the playbook of the team every week so you can have the best opportunity to guess what they're going to do. So I said, we'll take the plays of the other team. I'm going to put it in a hypnosis recording, like a 30-minute recording. But this time what I want you to do is I want you to loop it throughout the night. So you're just 8 hours a night over and over. You're hearing trips wide, they're doing a slant or whatever. So that was the game plan. And what's funny is, up until that point, I never even believed in sleep hypnosis. Like, I thought to myself, how the hell is it actually going to work if you are asleep, if you're unconscious? So he started listening to it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then by Sunday he went out and played. After the game, he messaged me and he said, Dom, I've never been more in tune with what the other team was going to do. It was like I knew what they were going to do before they did it. And from there, obviously, I knew that there was something to it, right? I was relieved that it worked, and I thought, okay, sleep hypnosis works. Then a few weeks or months later, I had the thought come over me, like, why don't I just use sleep hypnosis for myself to help attract abundance and success into my life? I found a video, and it had a bunch of views and comments of people saying, oh my God, I listened to this, and all this money started coming in. So I said, fuck it. I have nothing to lose. I'm going to be sleeping anyway, so let me just turn it on. So I started listening to this video on a Tuesday, and by Sunday, we had our biggest week ever at the time, by about 50%. Now, 50% more clients is great. The problem is that 50% more clients also comes along with 50% more work. And at the time, I didn't have an organization of people like I do now, and I just couldn't handle the flow. So I actually stopped listening to it because it was just too powerful. Then a few months went by, and I had the thought, I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just create my own sleep hypnosis? I'm a hypnotist. All I got to do, I just got to figure out the tech to make an 8-hour recording. So I did. And what I did was, instead of making it around just attracting a bunch of money, I wanted to make it attract money and work the same or even less, right? So I wanted it to be more passive, not get bombarded with all this extra work. So I create this affirmation. I put it on a sleep hypnosis. I start giving it out to clients and my YouTube and Instagram and everything. And within a couple days, people were getting great results. They're like, oh, dude, this deal I've been working on finally closed. I got a raise. My appointments are booking up, all this cool stuff. But then other people were saying that they couldn't understand the recording, and it sounded like it was in a different language. So I just figured I messed up the file or whatever. So I just left it at that. Then a few months after that, I started giving all of our new clients the sleep hypnosis as a part of their homework. So they come into our system and go, okay, we're going to do our one-on-ones. You're going to listen to sleep hypnosis. And the same thing happened. People were like, oh my God, I'm getting great results. And one client in particular, she messaged me one day and she goes, Dom, I think I'm going crazy. And I said, or she said, I think the recording's broken or something. And I said, what's going on? And she goes, the first 3 days I could hear it perfectly fine, but now it sounds like it's corrupted. It sounds like it's in a different language. So I said, okay, screen record it, send it to me, and I'll take a look. So she screen records it, sends it to me, and I can hear it perfectly fine. There's no issues at all. So then about an hour goes by, and she texts me. She goes, oh my God, Dom, you're not going to believe this. And I said, what? And she goes, I showed my partner the recording. We're in the same exact room, listening to the same exact thing, and she can hear it perfectly fine, but I can't understand a word. And she said, it sounds like it's in a different language. So I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is going on? I have no explanation for this. So I said, okay, let's talk about it in our session. So a week goes by, we hop on our call, and I want to see it for myself. I share my Zoom with her. I hit the share button and hit play, And sure enough, I can hear it perfectly fine, and she cannot understand a word. And she can read the words on the screen, the captions, but it's not processing auditorily. So I just went with intuitively what I knew or thought was happening, and I just figured, okay, her brain is distorting the sound because she's afraid of something that she's hearing in the recording. So what we did is we went through piece by piece, and I asked her, hey, why is your brain not letting you hear this part? Why is your brain not letting you hear this part? And what we discovered is she had all these fears and limiting beliefs around success. So she was afraid that when she became successful, that her friends and family would envy her and be jealous of her, and she would lose them. She was also afraid that she'd be arrogant and cocky and also drive people away. She was afraid that she couldn't handle multiple sources of income. She was afraid that she would be successful and not be happy. There was all these, that she wasn't smart enough to handle it, or that she was afraid she would blow all the money. There's like 8 different things, right? So one by one, we go through and we clear each one of them out. And then 45 minutes later, I hit the recording and she can hear it as clear as day, like nothing ever happened. So I have a group that I do every Monday night, and we get 50, 60 people on there, and I do different things or whatever. And I told the group about the story. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are not going to believe this. This is crazy. This whole thing happened. And a couple more people said, oh yeah, I had the same experience. So I did the same thing with them, jump on, share it, clear it out, boom, do the whole thing. Then what's even crazier is that a few weeks after that, I had people create their own affirmation in their own voice with their own words. I had nothing to do with it. And within a few days, people couldn't understand their own words in their own language. And same thing, they have fears or limitations around whatever the affirmation is, so their brain started distorting it. I say that because we all, your brain, whenever we take in information, it deletes, distorts, and generalizes to make everything easy. And when we have beliefs or limiting beliefs or fears, our brain will literally block us from receiving opportunities, whether that's in a business sense, whether it's relationships, whether it's our health. And so through the process of hypnosis, you can dive into your subconscious mind and figure out where all this stuff is coming from so that you can release it.
Okay, so when it comes to these things buried in our subconscious, and say we become more aware of what these limiting beliefs are, how does that process work of actually shedding those beliefs? Because I think like a lot of people might be very like self-aware of what they go to therapy, they go to talk therapy, they fully talk about their problems, they know what's at the root of them, yet it still doesn't change. So what's like the process of actually getting to once you've gotten to the root of these limiting beliefs, how does someone actually shed them so that it's no longer holding them back?
Yeah, so the issue with talk therapy is that they're not working with you at a subconscious level. You're just talking about your problems. So that's number one. Number two, and I've asked thousands of people this question. So I've had a lot of DM conversations with people about therapy, and I've been to therapy for years and this isn't working. And I always ask them, I say, hey, did your therapist ever ask your subconscious mind if it's okay to let go of the belief that you're not good enough or you're not worthy of love or whatever? And not still till this day, not one person has said, yeah, they asked me that. So here's what's happening. Logically, people want to get rid of their problems, right? People want to get rid of their anger, their anxiety, their depression, their weight, whatever. But at a subconscious level, many of the times, their subconscious mind doesn't, because their subconscious mind thinks it's helping them or it's protecting them, right? And because your subconscious mind is 95% of your brain power, you're trying to get the 5% to change, but this 95% doesn't want to, so the 95% will always override it. So the first step we have to do is we have to talk to the subconscious and get it to agree 100%, hey, yes, it's okay to let go of the belief I'm not good enough, I don't deserve success, I don't deserve love, my anger, my sadness, my fear, my guilt, my hurt, whatever. And once you do that, the next step is going in and finding out the real root. So on the surface, people think they know the root, and then they'll say, oh, when I was 15, this girl broke up with me. Okay, that's one thing, but the root is always something that happened to you when you're really young, or believe it or not, many of our traumas and things like that and limiting beliefs start from our genetics. So if our mother went through something traumatic during her pregnancy, that gets passed down to us. Or before we're even born. If our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, great-grandparents, if they go through something, those memories get passed down to us, and then we'll unconsciously live out their traumas in our own life and have the same experience until we go in and let it go. That's the reason why it doesn't work, and that's how you actually get it to work, is getting agreement and finding the real root cause.
That's interesting, because I've definitely read those same things about like transgenerational trauma, where people whose grandparents or great grandparents went through, say, the Holocaust, having greater instances of anxiety, depression, or other mental health disorders. And you think about it I had previously thought about that from like a purely biological level of, okay, they probably had way more release of cortisol and stress hormones, and then that affected the pregnancy and genetics or whatever. But as you're saying, there's also like the whole like psychological side of these certain beliefs could actually have gotten passed down, which is that's something I hadn't really thought about before.
Yeah, no, and I've done this I've worked with a couple thousand people on a one-on-one basis, and I've had many of them go, man, I'm getting a memory of my grandpa or my mom or my whoever, and they never heard, nobody's ever told them the story, they're just coming up with this in their head when they're in hypnosis, and then they go and verify, and I haven't had not one person, ever come back to me and go, hey, I went to my mom and I asked her about that memory, and it turns out that wasn't true. Not one. Every single time somebody has done that, they go verify with their parent or grandparent or whoever, it always comes back true. So this is the reality of how these things work. And once you get to the real root, again, if you're talking about Tanya broke up with me when I was 12, that's why I'm depressed. No, it's probably your mom, some shit happened to her while she was pregnant with you, and that's what started it. Maybe your dad left your mom while she was pregnant with you, and that's where boom. And then you grow up realize, like, believing you don't deserve love and this and that, and you're sad and you don't know why. It's because while your mom was during her pregnancy, she dealt with all that trauma and it got passed down. So that's how you find the real root cause of it.
That's super interesting. So I'd love to talk now about hypnosis for business and for entrepreneurs looking to level up, because it's something being an entrepreneur myself, it's something I've realized that the way that I grew up was fairly middle class, as with a lot of people, and realized a lot of like limitations surrounding money and like what I could charge for sessions. And that's something that actually I've talked a lot about with a mutual friend of ours, Anton Wisbicki, who coaches a lot of executives and entrepreneurs when helping them shed some of those limitations around money. But it's just something I realized that in the world that I came from growing up, it was just people were making whatever $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year as a yearly salary. And now I'm surrounded by people who might get paid $50,000 for a single keynote, or maybe even way more. And obviously you working with a ton of like super uber successful people, and that oftentimes goes along obviously with uber successful financially. What can you tell me around people's limiting beliefs around money, and how hypnosis can potentially help entrepreneurs, executives, people looking to grow their business from 6 figures to 7 figures, or 7 figures to 8 figures, how that can take place through the aid of hypnosis?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that people, like in your situation, coaches and people that do stuff like that, is they feel guilty for charging more. I went through the whole process. Look, it's as of today, and by the time some people hear this, it'll be more. But as of today, it's $20,000 to work with me for a day. And at one point, I just told you 4 years ago, I asked my brother for $200 for 2 hours. So I had to go through the whole, I feel guilty for charging, and people can't afford it, and this, that, and the other. So one is, one of the major ones is the guilt for charging for your services or whatever. Because obviously, as coaches, as healers, as people that are in our space, when I got into this, I took a fucking pay cut. I wasn't like, I'm gonna make a bunch of money. I was literally just sick and tired of what I was doing, and I wanted to do something that was fulfilling. So for the first year, I made way less than I was doing selling insurance. And so you have this sense of, I want to help everybody, and you try to do the best you can. And again, one of the biggest ones is the guilt. Another big one is the fear that as you become more and more successful, you are going to get ridiculed and criticized, and what are people going to think of me, and people aren't going to like you, and your friends and family that you know aren't going to be there for you anymore, and all these different things. So Those are the most common ones. And again, it all goes into stuff from our early childhood or genetic stuff that we got to go in. We remove it. Once we remove it, then boom, you're able to take off and have a ton of success. Now for me, what I did, I released that at a subconscious level, and I realized, hey, I could just train other people to do what I do. So that way we could serve people who maybe can't afford to work with me. And then also I have, like, for those of you who are listening, if you go to the App Store and you go to Dom the Hypnotist, you can actually get the sleep hypnosis that I just mentioned for free. I'm not going to have it up on there much longer for free, but you can actually go on there and get that sleep hypnosis. You just go to the App Store, Dom the Hypnotist. But I also create a bunch of stuff like that where it's free or it's inexpensive to where people who aren't at that higher level can afford those services. That's what I've done for myself, is to have something for everybody so that you can help people at all levels. Because at one point, I couldn't pay 20 grand to work with the guy. My mom bought me my first course, which was like $750, and then the $3,500 one that I went to, I had $1,700 to my name, and I didn't even really have $1,700 to my name because $700 was due for rent. I put like $1,000 payment and made payments, and every month that the payment came out, I was like, oh my God, this is so much money. I don't know if I can afford this. So I've been there, and I have empathy for people in those situations. And now last month we did over $800,000 in revenue. So if nobody had a cheaper option for me to help me, I'd still be stuck where I was. Yeah, that's what I would say about that.
And so what about in terms of, say, reading, I guess, self-help books or print books such as, I don't know, Think and Grow Rich is a favorite of mine, but these different beliefs or different books that are talking about, I don't know, just maximizing what we can achieve in terms of our health, our finances, our relationships. When it comes to reading a book, do you think of that as the amount of information that we're absorbing? Is that kind of dependent upon our subconscious programming? If we're reading something that doesn't align, is that something that, in the same way of talk therapy or something that it's more so working at a conscious level?
Yeah, exactly. And so don't get me wrong, like reading and consuming information is great. What ends up happening though is because of those filters in our brain, when we're reading a paragraph, if the paragraph says to do something that we're thinking is not possible for us, we'll just blank it out, or we'll go, oh, that's not real. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't find value in it, because there's tons of values in books. And here's the thing, here's what you really want to do, is if you're reading something or you're listening to something and you find yourself in your head going, oh, that's not possible for me, that'll never happen, and you start finding reasons as to why it can't happen for you, that's a clear sign that there's something within you that needs to be clear. There's some limitation that if you pause and you know how to do the right exercise, you can go in and remove it instantly. And then you literally read back the same information and you will process it differently in your brain. Yes, I highly encourage people to read books and things like that. It's just not the end all be all. Look, from 18 to 30, I read so many books, I listened to so many podcasts, and my success went like this. I was like, I'd have it and I'd lose it. I'd have it and I'd lose it. I'd have it and I'd lose it. And the only thing, out of all the books, seminars, and everything, the only thing that actually worked and permanently worked is when I went through hypnosis. And I went through and actually cleared the blocks and limitations in my mind. Because once you change those things, they're changed forever. And when you get rid of the belief that you're not good enough, like, cool, it's gone, and you don't have to keep reading about it or going to therapy about it. It just happens and you move forward. Definitely people should read books. Just know that there are going to be times where you read something and your brain's not going to process it the way that you want it to be processed.
I wanted to ask you, so in terms of like hypnosis being able to permanently clear certain limiting beliefs, like if we're continuously thinking these thoughts and having these belief patterns for years or decades of our lives, how can hypnosis just shed that forever? If someone's so conditioned to think in a certain way, how does that process work where it's just you shed that belief and it never comes back again?
Yeah, it's all about, again, finding the root, and then what you do is you just change the meaning. So the reason why the person believes that is because some event happened in their life and they gave it a negative meaning. So all events in life are neutral, which means there's no such thing as a good event. There's no such thing as a bad event. Everything is neutral. The only thing that makes it good or bad is your perspective. So if your mom leaves your dad when you're your dad leaves your mom, whatever, when you're 3 years old, you might go, hey, this sucks because my dad thinks it's my fault. I'm not good enough. And you go your whole life not realizing that. When you go back and you go, actually, and you change the meaning of it and you go, actually, you know what? I'm glad that happened because that made me independent. That made me the man I am today because I had to step it up and take care of my mom at a very young age. And so it's just all a matter of perspective. And that's how you can go in a matter of 3 to 5 minutes and have a belief that's so deep seated in somebody's mind and clear it for good is just by changing the meaning and changing the story of what you tell yourself.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. And what about, like, in terms of, did you use hypnosis to start attracting, say, these NFL players and Olympians that you now work with? Was that at all a process of something you incorporated to get to the clientele that you're currently working with today?
Yeah, it was more, this is what happened. When I got out of the hypnosis course, I think it was that week, the guy that did the course, he offered the $3,500 course, and I was like, I'm not paying that. I don't even got money. So he calls me and he's like, yo, Dom, what do you want to do with this whole thing? And I said, I want to work with UFC fighters because I do jiu-jitsu and I'm in Vegas. There's all kinds of fighters. You train with them all the time. I said, oh, it'd be cool to work with UFC fighters. He goes, look, man, if you want to work with UFC fighters, you need to up your game because the 2.5-day course you went to isn't going to be enough. So you should come to this other course, right? And I signed up. I told you about it already. And what's funny is 2 weeks after that, I want to say a week or two, I call up my buddy and go, hey, man, he has a truck. So I'm like, hey, I need to go get a couch on the other side of town. Can you take me? Let's take your truck. So he's all right, cool. So we go to get the couch. And while we're doing it, the guy's taking forever to get there. And so we're waiting. So finally we get the couch load and he's like, I got to go to the UFC Performance Institute right now to meet with Julian. Julian's a UFC fighter, one of our friends. He's like, do you want to go? And I'm like, fuck yeah, of course I want to go. I've been there many times now, but at the time we're like, oh, this is going to be cool. We'll go to the UFC Performance Institute. So we go there, and I don't really know Julian really well at the time, but we trained together, whatever. And he's, oh, what's up with this hypnosis thing? I said, let's go do it. So we went upstairs. There's like this room in a UFC PI we went to, and I hypnotized him, whatever. So as we're coming down the stairs, we run into his buddy, Khalil Roundtree, who's also a UFC light heavyweight. And we're talking, and he's like, yeah, Julian's like, hey, this guy's a hypnotist, and blah. So we exchanged numbers. Turns out he had a fight the very next week on the biggest card of the year. And for the UFC fans, it was the year that Kelvin Gastelum fought Israel Adesanya. We exchanged numbers, and we do a couple sessions leading up to the fight. And then he goes out the next Saturday. And what was crazy is I'm sitting there watching, like I have been watching UFC pay-per-views for years. And I'm sitting there, and Khalil is just beating the shit out of his other opponent, just mopping the floor with him. It was really bad. And what's funny is, as this was all happening, Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier were like, oh my God, this is the best Khalil Roundtree we've ever seen. It's like he got over a mental block. And I'm like, holy shit. For me, it was surreal. Now, whatever. But at the time, dude, that was partly because of me. We just did the work. This is fucking crazy. So whatever, he wins like 30-26. And again, for UFC fans, that's like a huge, like you just demolish your opponent. Then a couple weeks after that, Khalil did so good that Rogan had him on his podcast. He's, dude, what did you do? Like, you were a completely different person, this and that. He's like, yeah, dude, I got hypnotized by this guy, Dom, in Vegas, and this is what we did. And everything we did in the hypnosis came true. Raising my hand, getting my check, slapping hands, he's like, everything I visualized came true. So after that, what's funny is the guy that he beat, he ended up getting a hold of me. He's, yo, whatever you did to him, I need you to do to me. And at the time, Eric Anders is his name, he was on a 3-fight losing streak. And in the UFC, if you lose 3 or 4 in a row, you're done. Like, you're out, right? So he's on a 3-fight losing streak. If he loses his next fight, he's out. So I work with them. We clear out all his blocks and everything, and we go. He goes out and he fights, and he knocks out his opponent in 1 minute and 19 seconds, wins a $50,000 bonus, and keeps his job. So after that, my credibility just shot through the roof, right? Because I'm helping these guys get over these blocks and just performing at their absolute best. And then one thing led to another, and I worked with more UFC fighters and then Olympic athletes and then the football players and stuff like that. So I never put it in hypnosis, hey, this is what I want to do. But I did put the intention out of, hey, I want to work with UFC fighters. And the funny thing is, when that guy was signing me up for the program, the $3,500 program, and I didn't do it, if I hadn't done it, none of that would have happened. I don't know where I would be. It's just interesting how like me paying that money, it shifted something in me, and then boom, all this cool stuff happened. Yeah, man, it's amazing how, and that would, mind you, 6 weeks before all that, 6 weeks before I'm getting mentioned on Joe Rogan, I was selling life insurance.
Wow.
How fucking crazy is that?
That is insane.
Yeah, that's how quickly you can change your life when you just decide to do it and you take action and you invest in yourself. Your entire paradigm shifts.
Right. And I like what you said there about like the intention to do, like to work with UFC fighters, then figuring out you spotting those opportunities. Because I think that's how I think about the law of attraction, where I don't really believe in we just think of something and then it magically appears. I more so think about if we have the desire for something, then it's like our brain is more calibrated to looking for opportunities that are going to help fulfill that desire. That's just my personal view on that. But what I wanted to say too about like hypnosis and fighting, that I remember hearing about, I don't know if this is true, but correct me if I'm wrong. I know there was something about Mike Tyson being hypnotized from like when he was like 12 years old, but like hypnotized, not necessarily in the healthiest way, hypnotized to be like this ferocious killer. And he talked about how like utilizing different like psychedelics and stuff since fighting has like helped undo those programs that were being programmed with hypnosis. But is that something that's true?
Yeah, his trainer was Customato. He was an amateur hypnotist, so he would hypnotize them like a couple times a week, and you're going to do this, and you're going to demolish them, and you're going to kill them, and you're going to whatever. And then on the night of the fights, they would have a professional hypnotist come in and hypnotize Mike, and then he would just go out and just fucking destroy people. And it's hard to say whether or not that was the reason he was just an animal and he's crazy. I'm sure there's many factors that go into that. The guy had a rough upbringing, he's picked on the whole thing and whatever he went through. And then, yeah, later on in life, after he went through his whole phase of his life, of his whole, everybody knows that story, he started getting into psychedelics to help him let go of some of the stuff that he had been holding on to. There's also, look, you're 40, 50 years old, you don't have the testosterone levels and the aggression that you did when you're 19. So obviously your personality changes a little bit. But yeah, he talks a lot about the frog and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. So one thing I wanted to clear up from earlier is you were talking about the people who are most hypnotizable or some of the most, what was the word you used? Like hard, strong-willed people. But then how does that relate to, you were also saying people who are like volunteering for like stage hypnosis, there's like willing participants in that and they're wanting that to happen. How does that, like, how do you make sense of that?
Yeah, there you go. You just said it. They want it to happen. Look, you have an athlete that wants to fucking win a championship. Guess what? They want to be hypnotized. Believe me. They're not going to sit there and fight it and go, oh, I'm too strong-willed. They're going to go, no, yes, sir, you're right. Let me follow instructions. And that's all it is, because let's say non-strong-willed people or weak-minded people, what do? They go, oh, no, I'm not going to follow instructions. Oh, no, I can't do that. Oh, I can't relax. I can't close my eyes. I can't do this. I can't do. Those are weak motherfuckers. The strong-willed person goes, okay, I'm going to close my eyes. Well, you want me to relax? Okay, cool, I'll relax. You want me to breathe in, breathe out? Okay, or whatever. And they are the easiest to hypnotize because they follow instructions. Okay. So even with the people that are on stage, look, who has bigger balls? The person that goes on stage and allows themselves to be hypnotized, or the person that's, I'm afraid in the audience? And look, I've been the person that's afraid in the audience, so I'm not judging anybody, but who's stronger-willed?
Right.
The person that's on stage. They got big cojones. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
no,
that's how I look at it.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't know why I was associating, I guess, strong-willed with being like resistant to suggestions that might be offered in hypnosis, but I guess that's not necessarily the accurate way to look at that.
Think about it. Is that a strong-willed person? A strong-willed person goes,
it would be
give me
stubborn.
the tool, I'll make it happen. It's stubborn. That's different.
Yeah,
strong-willed and stubborn are completely different. And cool, you're stubborn. I don't care. I have nothing to prove to anybody. You can't hypnotize me. All right, cool. I don't give my gifts away for free anyway, so what the fuck? What are we talking about here? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's stubborn people. And again, think about it. If somebody's so stubborn, what are they afraid of? What are they afraid to look at? Why are they so afraid to go into their mind and start talking and bringing stuff up? And it's mostly men. that they're all like guys will, when I first started, I used to get into battles with people. Now I don't give a shit, but people would be like, oh, I'm too strong-willed to be hypnotized. And then I go on their profile and the guy's all fucking steroided out and tattoos and all this. I'm like, oh, this guy's a fucking pussy. It's like, the guys that look like that are usually, they do that because they're so afraid. Their little insecure self inside is trying to put up this shield to block everything out. I'm like, oh, I get it. Yeah, it's mostly to people like that, or even people that, it's mostly men. Women are like, oh yeah, hypnotize me. I love it. I want to feel it. But it's the dudes that think they're so tough and, it's like, all right, bro, I don't care.
Interesting. So, Dom, I know we're coming up on to the end of the show. Anything that we haven't yet touched on that you think is relevant just for people's understanding of hypnosis and the benefit that it could provide to their lives?
Yeah, again, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. The guy that's sitting there stubborn and he's, you can't hypnotize me, okay, that's fine. That's cool. But if you want to change your life, if you want to improve, it is in your best interest to allow yourself to go into that state of hypnosis, because you're already doing it anyways. Now it's just a matter of purposely and intentionally doing it to get an outcome and get an end result. Just give it a shot. Just, what do you got to lose? Again, people think it's black magic and it's this and it's that. And my belief is, you can go on my Instagram and look at this. I've had a few people now where I bring them on. I just go live. All right, guys, going live today. And I say, hey, we're going to perform a miracle. We're going to heal somebody of their bodily pains. Let's do it. So I'll be like, hey, type yes in the chat if you're feeling pain. And people type yes. I go, okay, I'll bring some random person on. How long have you had your pain? Oh, it's 20 years. Okay, what have you done about it? Oh, I've had back surgery. I've had this and that and the medication. Okay, cool. And then within 5-10 minutes, their pain is gone. It's completely gone, disappeared, and it never comes back. And I say that because, in my belief, a lot of the things that are the real deal stuff, the real stuff that works, not the pills and the this and the that, the real stuff. A lot of that stuff is made to seem quacky. It's made to seem not real, right? As a matter of fact, you can look this up. Back in, I think it was the 20s, back in the day, like everything was all natural healers and naturopaths and people that use herbs for healing and all this other stuff. And then I think it was the American something association, medical association came in. There's a Rockefeller funded organization, and they purposely and intentionally campaigned to make all those people who did that seem like quacks. And then, oh, you got to do our new stuff, these drugs and these things and everything else. And again, people can take it for what they want. They can think I'm a conspiracy theorist or whatever, but it's just the facts. That's what happened. And I believe that a lot of the real stuff that works is made to seem like it's ridiculous and it's fake or it's, bullshit. But it really works. And I've done it many times with people over and over. So
I can attest to that. I face the same thing with people, clients or prospective clients I talk to about neurofeedback or brain mapping, and people think it's this like new experimental thing. It's quacky. And I'm like, no, there's actually decades and decades of research behind this. This is nothing new. This is just a different application, but it's that exact same thing. I think makes sense exactly what you're talking about, where things that really are legit are just made to seem quacky because whatever the pharmaceutical industries or Western medical system is not profiting from them. So
well, think about this. When I brought, and again, you can go on my Instagram and look at, I've done this a few times. A girl comes on and in 5-10 minutes, we heal her back pain. And I just did it for free. I don't care. It takes me 5 minutes. I'm not a big deal. But think about, had I done that 20 years ago, think about the money that would have been lost from that. And look, don't get me wrong. I'm all about making money. I'm all about having success. I believe people should be paid what they're worth. But how much money does this industry make when somebody's stuck on pills for decades, when they have had 5 back surgeries, and I don't know how much back surgeries are. And I'm sure, obviously, like certain back surgeries work for sure. There's certain cases that are real. And everything that goes along with that. So there's no money in the cure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, again, it's like with neurofeedback, there's so much studies, so much research on ADHD. And if neurofeedback was actually pushed as a first-line treatment for that, Adderall, whoever the manufacturers behind Adderall, they probably wouldn't be the billion-dollar giants that they are today. So I definitely get that, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show and just sharing all of your knowledge and expertise. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you or learn more just about your work?
Yeah, if you just go to Instagram, dom.the.hypnotist, all my channels are Dom the Hypnotist. That's the one where I'm the most active. So you can go on Instagram, send me a message, or you can book a consultation with my team and see what we can do to help.
Awesome. Absolutely. So I'll ask you one final question that I'll use as like the intro or trailer for the episode, which is, why should the listeners tune into the show today?
That's a good question. They're going to hear a story or two that will completely change their paradigm. And they're going to hear things that are going to push back on their beliefs and what they believe is real or not real. And for me, I like that kind of stuff. I want to listen to something where I'm like, maybe I don't agree 100% with it, but it's going to open my mind to a new paradigm, a new shift. And I've had so many experiences now that I'm not even going to get into, but that at one point I thought, no, that's all bullshit, that's all fake. And then now I know it's real. They're going to be listening to it and go, okay, maybe there is something to this.
Okay, awesome. Dom, again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, my man.
Thanks for tuning in to the Neuroflex podcast. Follow us on Instagram @Neuroflex and keep tuning in each week for new episodes. You can listen to the full audio episodes on Spotify or Apple Podcast, along with the full video episodes on our YouTube channel, Neuroflex Tech.